All right, show me a sign. Chapter 16. The temperature's dropping. Winter's approaching. In a week, it will be the last month of this painful year. Andrew brought Mama an amber-tinted piece of sea glass to thank her for the books. She added it to her collection on the kitchen windowsill. He explained that it can take from 7 to 10 years of wave tumbling to make it. She was impressed. I told her that when I learned it from Miss Hammond. Does Mama not remember? Why is she trying so hard to endear himself to her? After the monotony of sweeping, Mama asks me to polish the pewter. This is usually done only on special occasions. My plan to retrieve the map makes me too nervous to inquire. Mama is spirited as she does her chores. In the short time since Andrew's arrival, I see a change in her. Around noon, I'm released from my chores. Though no one is there to see me, I tiptoe along the road and I keep close to the bushes. I'm occasionally ducking into their scratchy branches. I'm being extra cautious without Nancy to guide me. The parsonage is one of the oldest buildings on the island. Its gray clapboard has been whitewashed and built upon over the years. It sits about halfway between our farm and the meeting house, on a parcel of land that borders the Lees' modest family farm. I've been here before. Mama used to take tea with Reverend Lee and sometimes brought me along. Reverend Lee must be out visiting because his trap is not here. I see Andrew walking down the island with purposeful strides. I try to merge with the side of the parsonage and discreetly look out. Carrie's grandmother, the widow Tilton, helps Reverend Lee keep house. I try to quiet my breathing and I hope my stomach doesn't growl because she is hearing. Deaf people can easily make sounds without even realizing it. George sometimes made teasing remarks about it. Cautiously, I peek through the kitchen window. Mrs. Tilton is stoking the fire. I'm certain Nancy would tell me to climb through the window, but instead I head to the front door. My heart quickens. My hands sweat as I slowly open it, just a crack, and peek in. Seeing no one, I slip through, carefully latching the door behind me. I stretch my legs from rug to rug as I move down the hall, avoiding the footfalls on the wooden floor. I thought I would remember where things are, but in my panic, I'm disoriented. I clasp my hands to keep them still, and I look toward the kitchen for the widow Tilton. She is now out in the yard fetching water. At the back of the house, a door to the right of the kitchen is ajar. Maybe it's the guest room. I rush toward it and sneak inside before gently closing the door. I rest against it, my chest rising and falling as I try to still my frantic breathing. Spying is much more taxing than I realized, so she's made it into Andrew's room. The light from the window is thin and gray as it filters through the glass. Freshly cleaned socks hang from the windowsill. They've been darned many times, and there is a faint smell of old wool in the air. A pair of simple breeches, those are pants, I love the word breeches, by the way. Word wizard. A pair of simple breeches is folded over the back of the chair at the desk, and I feel scandalous even looking at them. On the desk is a curious white object, stiff in stature, sitting on a ring. It's a clergy collar. I'm mortified to realize I'm not in Andrew Noble's room. I'm in Reverend Lee's bedroom. There are few other personal objects. This bed is too small for his long frame. No wonder he stoops. I'll have to forget all this when I see him next time standing at the pulpit. I put my hands on the door to feel vibrations. Nothing but quiet. I exit and peek out a window as Widow Tilton is talking with Mrs. Lee. Stealthily, I cross the room to the other side of the house. This bedstead is larger than Reverend Lee's, with a golden cross nailed to the wall above the headboard. A simple washstand with a mirror sits in the corner. The scent from a fancy bottle of hair tonic tickles my nose. I recognize some of George's books on the floor by the side of the bed. The geography book with the map of memories tucked inside is not among them. But under the window is a desk that's crowded with even more books. There are some jars of samples and assorted papers. I sift through the meticulous stacks. I see Ezra Brewer's genealogy, drawings and columns and numbers that I can't figure out, but no geography book. Does Andrew have it on his person? Did he discover my map? Why did Mama give him that book? I almost rip off the bedsheets to look for it. Tears fill my eyes and I breathe heavily. I pray for strength before I go on. Maybe the map is no longer in the book. I turn back to the stacks of paper to look for it underneath an envelope with a return address in Boston. I slip a letter out of the envelope. I feel vibrations through the wood floor. What will they say if I'm suddenly caught? I have sinned too often lately. I keep making up lies. I swing around and there's no one there. The vibrations must be my own heart beating in my chest. You're a cowardly spy, I sign to myself. Widow Tilton and Mrs. Lee will not stay out in the cold for long, so I must hurry. I take the letter and read it. So, this is part of a letter that she found, and it's from somebody in Boston, okay? It says, Dear Andrew, I wish you all the best in your studies. If your father's old friend is willing to put you up on the island, I recommend that you find lodgings where you can work without interruption. It is always best to be in the field when researching a subject or people. Try to integrate yourself with the natives. It will make the study of their inherent deafness and idiocy more pleasant. If you are correct, and it is a local element causing this condition, take care not to expose yourself to it. When you return to the city, bring back samples and acquire a live specimen, if possible. A live specimen, guys? That means a person. Again, I feel the floor vibrate. I peer out the door and I see Widow Tilton's shadow in the kitchen. She's at the basin washing dishes. I scold myself for not making a clear picture in my head before I moved things to do my best to replace things to where I found it. I slip out of the bedroom while Widow Tilton's back is to me. I hold my breath and I press myself up against the wall. It confounds me that hearing people can detect the slightest sound. Widow Tilton turns her head and looks towards the door. Not seeing anything, she shakes her head and returns to her washing. I take my chance and dash out. I'm careful not to slam the door behind me. Walking home, I think about that letter. Who wrote it? There are other ignorant people who think as Andrew does. Sarah Hillman runs out to greet me when I pass her house. Carrie Tilton trails behind her. It gives me a start seeing her after I've just evaded her grandmother. You're so lucky to have that young man calling at your home, Sarah signs. I detect a glimmer in her apple-green eyes. Why do you say that? I ask. Don't be a silly girl, Sarah signs, acting older than 12 years. He's very handsome, with those piercing blue eyes. And he isn't just a simple island farmer or a whaler. He's from the city. He attended Yale University, even if he didn't finish his studies. I don't see it like that, I tell her. Oh, you can't fool me, Sarah signs, resting her hand under her tilted chin. Carrie casts me a sympathetic look. Andrew is 10 years older than I am, I sign. Sarah gives me a knowing look, twisting her red curls around her fingers. That won't matter when you're 18 and he's 28, she signs. And with your brother gone, your father needs a son to inherit the property. My mother says it's obvious why your family had him over for dinner and has taken an interest in him. It's not because of me, I sign. Oh, don't play coy with me, Mary Lambert, she signs aggressively. Everybody's talking about it. You better stop gossiping about my family, I sign. And I walk away without a single courtesy. I don't have time for this silliness. On my way home, I think more about that letter. What is a live specimen?